The first time I noticed something was wrong in my perfect life was when my wedding ring vanished from its usual spot on my nightstand. I found it later, tucked behind my jewellery box, but I knew I hadn't put it there. My name is Trisha, and 6 months ago, I thought I had everything. A beautiful home, a charming husband, and the kind of financial security most people only dream about. Now, I'm not so sure about any of it. Darling, are you sure you didn't just forget? Mark's voice was honey-sweet as he helped me search that morning. You've been under so much stress since your father passed. I hadn't been under stress. I'd been grieving, yes, but I was handling it well. I never put my ring behind things, Mark. You know that. He wrapped his arms around me, and I felt his chest rise with a gentle sigh. Maybe we should talk to someone, a professional. I don't need a therapist because I misplaced a ring, but it wasn't just the ring. Last week, my calendar showed appointments I never made. Yesterday, I found my car in a different spot in the garage. Small things that made me sound crazy when I said them out loud. The doorbell rang, and Mark's face lit up. That must be Mum. Greta swept in like she owned the place, her Hermes scarf trailing designer perfume. Trisha, darling, you look tired. Have you been sleeping? I'm fine, Greta. I forced a smile. Just busy with the foundation work. Oh yes, all those charity obligations. She settled onto our leather sofa, her eyes sharp despite her soft tone. It must be overwhelming, especially now that you're handling your father's estate. Mark brought coffee, and I watched as mother and son exchanged a look I couldn't quite read. Speaking of the estate, Greta continued, Mark tells me you've been a bit scattered lately. Scattered? I set my cup down harder than necessary. What does that mean? Mum's just concerned, Mark said quickly, like when you missed the hospital board meeting last week. I didn't miss. I stopped. I distinctly remembered crossing that meeting off my calendar because it had been rescheduled, hadn't it? And the incident with Pearl, Greta added gently. What incident with Pearl? Another loaded look between them. Sweetheart, Mark said, Pearl quit 2 weeks ago after your disagreement. My head spun. Pearl, our housekeeper of 3 years, hadn't quit. I'd spoken to her yesterday about the weekend schedule, hadn't I? I think you're confused, I said carefully. Pearl and I are fine. Oh, darling. Greta reached for my hand. I pulled back before she could touch me. It's okay to admit when things are becoming too much. We're family. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed listening to Mark's steady breathing, my mind racing. I got up and went to my study, pulling out my phone to call Pearl. No answer. I scrolled through my recent calls. No Pearl. No record of any calls to her number in the past 2 weeks. I opened my desk drawer and pulled out a fresh notebook. On the first page, I wrote the date and began listing everything I was certain about. My ring, the calendar, Pearl, the garage. Small things, but when I saw them written down, a pattern emerged. A floorboard creaked outside my study. I quickly shut the notebook and slipped it into my desk drawer. Can't sleep? Mark appeared in the doorway concerned. Perfect husband checking on his troubled wife. Just some foundation emails, I lied, closing my laptop. He kissed my forehead. Come to bed. You need rest. I followed him upstairs, but paused at the sound of voices. Greta was still here? At midnight? I crept closer to the guest room, where a sliver of light escaped beneath the door. Moving too fast, Greta whispered. We need to be patient. The trust fund stipulations, Mark's voice was barely audible. I know the stipulations. A few more weeks and she won't be a problem anymore. My heart stopped. I pressed my hand against my mouth to stifle any sound and backed away, slowly, carefully, until I reached our bedroom. Mark joined me minutes later, sliding into bed as if he hadn't just been conspiring with his mother. I lay there, my eyes wide in the dark as his breathing evened out into sleep. The notebook in my study suddenly felt like the most important thing I owned. Tomorrow, I decided, I would buy a voice recorder and a camera. And maybe, just maybe, I would start paying very close attention to every single thing my loving husband and his mother did. Because now I knew. I wasn't crazy. I was being hunted. The voice recorder looked innocent enough. A slim, black rectangle that could pass for a power bank. I tucked it behind a row of books in our library, where Mark and Greta always had their private chats. "You're being paranoid," Michaela said over coffee that afternoon. My oldest friend looked worried, stirring her latte with more force than necessary. "Mark adores you. Does he?" I pulled out my phone, showing her my calendar. "Look at these appointments. Doctor visits I never made. Lunch meetings that don't exist. Someone's been changing my schedule." She frowned, scrolling through the entries. Could it be a sync issue? A sync issue that only affects appointments, that would prove I'm scattered? I took my phone back. Mark keeps telling people I'm missing meetings. Important ones. That's... Michaela hesitated. "Have you considered that maybe... If you suggest I'm imagining things, I swear..." "No," she cut in. "I was going to say, have you considered that maybe this is abuse?" The word hung between us, heavy and ugly. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed with a text from Mark. "Don't forget your 3 p.m. with Dr. Jensen. Love you." I stared at the screen. "I don't have a..." Checking my calendar again, there it was. An appointment I'd never made with a psychiatrist I'd never heard of. "Okay," Michaela said slowly. "That's not normal." When I got home, Greta was waiting in the foyer. "Trisha, darling, I'm so glad I caught you. Did you make it to Dr. Jensen?" "There must have been a mix-up," I said carefully. "I didn't have an appointment today." Her face crumpled with concern. "Oh, sweetheart, this is exactly what we're worried about. You made that appointment last week, don't you remember? After the incident." "What incident?" "When you accused Pearl of stealing." Greta's voice was gentle, practiced. "You were so upset, throwing things..." "That never happened." "It's okay not to remember. Stress can do terrible things to the mind." She pulled an envelope from her designer bag. "That's why we thought it was time for a proper evaluation. Just to be safe." Inside the envelope was a psychiatric referral. Pre-filled. Waiting for my signature. "We?" My voice was steady, calmer than I felt. "Mark and I are just trying to help. We love you." She touched my arm. "Sweetheart, we can't have another incident." I jerked away from her touch. "I need to lie down." In my study, I pulled out my notebook, adding this latest manipulation to the growing list. My hands shook as I wrote. A shadow fell across my desk. "Everything okay?" Mark stood in the doorway, loosening his tie. "Your mother thinks I need psychiatric help." He crossed the room, his footsteps silent on the thick carpet. "We're worried about you. These memory issues, the paranoia..." "I'm not paranoid. You think someone's changing your calendar." He picked up my phone. "You think Pearl quit because of some conspiracy? Baby, do you hear yourself?" I snatched my phone back. "Don't touch my things." "See? This isn't like you." He reached for me, but I stepped away. "Let us help." That night, I waited until Mark was asleep before checking the voice recorder. My hands trembled as I plugged in my earphones and pressed play. "Getting worse," Greta's voice crackled through. "The trust fund requires mental competency. If we can prove she's unstable..." "Mum, I know." Mark sounded irritated. "I've got it handled. Tomorrow I'm taking her car keys. She'll think she lost them. And I've got her phone set to sync with mine. Every time she makes an appointment, I'll know. We can work around them, make her look unreliable." The trust lawyer's already concerned. A few more weeks of this. I stopped the recording, bile rising in my throat. Grabbing my laptop, I checked the security cameras I'd installed last week. There, in crisp HD, Greta sliding into my car, taking my keys, typing on my phone. My own husband, my mother-in-law, planning to have me committed. A notification popped up on my phone. Calendar update. New appointment added. I watched in real time as my schedule rearranged itself. Appointments shifting, disappearing, multiplying. A perfect digital trail of a woman losing her grip on reality. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, ready to message Michaela everything. Then I stopped. No. If I was going to fight back, I needed to be smarter. Let them think their plan was working. Let them get confident. Because they'd forgotten one crucial thing. I wasn't just some rich man's daughter. I was Bruce Walsh's heir. And he hadn't raised me to go down without a fight. I closed my laptop and smiled in the dark. They wanted to play games? Fine. But they had no idea who they were really dealing with. My phone recorded everything now. Every conversation, every concerned comment from Mark, every manipulative moment with Greta. I kept it running constantly, tucked in my pocket or sitting innocently on tables. They never suspected a thing. I spoke with Remington today, Mark announced over dinner, casual as could be. He's worried about the Foundation's leadership. I took a sip of wine, playing dumb. Oh? Why's that? Well, with everything that's been happening... He reached across the table, squeezing my hand. He thinks maybe we should consider temporary measures, just until you're feeling better. The recorder caught it all. His fake concern, the slight emphasis on temporary, the way his thumb stroked my wrist like I was a spooked animal. What kind of measures? Nothing dramatic. I just help manage things. The trust fund has provisions for situations like this. I bet it did. The doorbell rang the next morning while Mark was at work. Pearl stood on my doorstep, fidgeting with her purse strap. I had to come, she said, glancing over her shoulder. Mrs. Marshall, Greta, she called me last week. I ushered her into the kitchen, starting the coffee maker. My phone sat between us, recording. She wanted me to sign something. Pearl's hand shook as she accepted the coffee mug. A statement saying you attacked me during one of your episodes. Said I'd be well compensated. Did you sign it? Of course not. I've known you 5 years, Miss Tricia. You're the kindest person I know. She leaned forward. But they're planning something bad. I heard them talking when I was cleaning the library last month. About doctors and commitments and your father's money. I pulled out my notebook. Tell me everything you remember. Later that day, I met Michaela at her law office. She listened to the recordings, her expression darkening with each revelation. This is serious, Tricia. They're building a case for temporary guardianship. She tapped her pen against her desk. With the right doctor's evaluation and enough witness statements, they could have me committed. And once you're in, it's hell getting out. Especially if your husband has power of attorney. She started typing on her computer. We need to move fast. I'm calling Remington myself. No. I held up my hand. Not yet. I need more evidence. Something they can't explain away. You're playing a dangerous game. I'm winning it. That evening, I made a show of taking the fake anxiety medication Greta had given me. Mark watched with obvious satisfaction as I swallowed the pills. Good girl, he murmured, kissing my forehead. These will help you feel better. I waited until he was in the shower before checking his phone. He'd left it unlocked. He'd grown careless, confident in his victory. There it was, a text from Greta. Meeting W. Polish Dr. Jensen scheduled. My mom will handle her when she's fragile. I forwarded the message to myself, then deleted the evidence from his phone. In my study, I added it to my growing file of screenshots, recordings, and Pearl's written statement. The next morning, I played my part perfectly. Confused about appointments, slightly unfocused, just unstable enough to concern, but not enough to alarm. Mark ate it up. "Maybe we should cancel the charity gala next week," he suggested over breakfast. "You're not quite yourself." "No!" I injected panic into my voice. "I can handle it. Please, I need to feel normal." He exchanged looks with Greta, who dropped by again. "Well, if you're sure." "She should go," Greta said smoothly. "It'll be good to have witnesses. I mean, good for her to socialise." My phone buzzed. Michaela had found something. "Dr. Jensen has a history," her text read. 3 cases of suspicious commitments in the past 2 years. All wealthy women, all with controlling husbands." I deleted the message immediately. Mark glanced up. "Everything okay, honey?" "Just a reminder about my medication." I smiled vacantly. "I'm so forgetful lately." "That's why we're here to help," Greta cooed. "Everything will be better soon." Yes, I thought, watching them share another conspiratorial look. Everything would be better soon, but not the way they planned. I excused myself to the bathroom, where I took out my phone and typed a quick message to Michaela. "Get me everything on Jensen, and find out who else he's working with." The response came instantly. "Already on it. Be careful. Don't let them see you're fighting back." I caught my reflection in the mirror and practiced my vacant smile. Oh, I'd let them see exactly what they expected to see, right up until the moment I destroyed them. The charity gala was their stage, and I gave them exactly the performance they wanted. I wandered through the crowd at the art museum, slightly dishevelled, my designer dress just a touch wrinkled. Every now and then I'd stop mid-sentence, looking confused. "Poor thing," I heard someone whisper as I passed. "She's never been the same since her father died." Mark played his role perfectly, the devoted husband managing his unstable wife. He kept his arm around me, steering me away from important conversations, jumping in whenever I spoke. "Darling, you're thinking of last year's events," he'd say smoothly when I mentioned a detail he didn't like. "Remember? Dr. Jensen said these memory lapses might happen." I watched the sympathetic nods, the knowing looks. Every reaction was another brick in the wall they were building around me. "Mark," I said loudly enough for nearby guests to hear, "have you seen my phone? I can't remember where I put it." He pulled it from his pocket. "You gave it to me for safekeeping, sweetheart, after the incident this morning." There had been no incident, but now a dozen witnesses had seen me confused about my phone and my caring husband taking care of me. Greta worked the room like a pro, her voice carrying just enough for others to hear. "We're doing everything we can for her. The doctors are optimistic, but you know how these things can be." During dinner, I deliberately used the wrong fork, then burst into tears when someone mentioned my father's name. Mark escorted me to the bathroom, where I caught him texting rapidly. Back at our table, Greta slipped something into my purse. I knew, without looking, it was another bottle of fake medication. "Your anxiety seems worse tonight," she said loudly. "Did you take your pills?" I fumbled with my purse, letting the bottle drop and roll across the floor. I thought I did. Didn't I?" A waiter retrieved the bottle. More witnesses, more concerned looks. "Maybe we should go home," Mark suggested, his voice dripping with concern. "You're not well." "No!" I grabbed his arm, playing up the desperation. "Please, I can do this. I need to do this." He shared a meaningful look with his mother. I'd given them exactly what they wanted, a public display of instability. Later that night, while Mark was in the shower, I checked my email. Michaela had sent me something urgent, a psychiatric assessment form already filled out with my name. My hands shook as I read it. According to this document, I was suffering from paranoid delusions, specifically the belief that my husband was trying to steal my inheritance. It detailed incidents that never happened, medications I'd never taken, and patterns of behaviour I'd never exhibited. The form was dated for next week's appointment, the one I hadn't even had yet. I forwarded the document to my secure email account and deleted all traces just as Mark came out of the bathroom. "You seemed a bit overwhelmed tonight," he said, sliding into bed beside me. Did I? I kept my voice small, uncertain. "Everything's just so fuzzy sometimes." He pulled me close, and I forced myself not to stiffen. "That's why we're getting you help. Dr. Jensen is the best. He'll know exactly what to do." "I'm sure he will," I thought, remembering the pre-written assessment. The next morning, I met Michaela in a coffee shop across town. I told Mark I was getting my hair done, something he could easily verify later when I came home with a slightly different style. "They're moving faster than we thought," Michaela said, sliding the printed assessment across the table. "This isn't just about control anymore. They're building a paper trail." "Good," I said, taking a sip of my coffee. "Let them." "Good. Trisha, they're trying to have you committed, and every piece of evidence they create is another nail in their coffin." I pulled out my phone, showing her the recordings from the gala. "I've got them coaching each other on what to say, discussing their plans, even admitting to the fake medication. But the assessment proves they're working with Jensen, that this whole thing is premeditated." I smiled. "They think they're documenting my instability. They're actually documenting their own conspiracy." Michaela stared at me for a long moment. "You're scary sometimes, you know that?" "I learned from the best." I thought of my father, his lessons about business and betrayal. "Never let them see you coming," he used to say. My phone buzzed, a text from Mark. "Where are you? Mum's here for lunch?" "Time to go play crazy," I said, standing up. "Make sure everything's ready for next week. When they make their move, I want to be ready to make mine." "Be careful," Michaela called after me. I turned back, my smile sharp as a blade. "Oh, I'm not the one who needs to be careful." Dr. Jensen's office was exactly what you'd expect. Expensive leather chairs, tasteful art, and the kind of silence that screams money. Mark sat to my left, Greta to my right, boxing me in like prison guards. "Miss Trisha," Dr. Jensen said, his voice professionally neutral, "why don't you tell me what brings you here today?" I glanced at Mark, playing up my uncertainty. I'm not sure. Things have been confusing lately." "She's been having episodes," Greta jumped in. "Paranoid accusations, memory lapses." "Please, Mrs. Marshall," Jensen held up his hand. "Let Trisha speak." I twisted my hands in my lap, the picture of nervous energy. "Sometimes I forget things, or I think things happened that didn't happen. At least, that's what they tell me." "What kind of things?" "She accused our housekeeper of stealing," Mark said quickly, had a complete breakdown over it. Jensen made a note. "And how did that make you feel, Trisha?" "I remember it differently," I whispered, "but Mark says I'm wrong. He's probably right. He's always right." Greta dabbed at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. "It's been horrible watching her decline. Ever since her father died." "I see." Jensen opened a file. "I have some concerning reports here about your behaviour." "Reports?" I let my voice shake. "What reports?" "Various incidents, missing appointments, public outbursts, paranoid accusations about your husband stealing your money." I stopped, looking confused. "Did I?" Mark squeezed my hand. "It's okay, honey. That's why we're here." I pulled away, standing suddenly. "I need some air." "Trisha," Greta's voice was sharp, "sit down." "Please," Jensen said calmly. "Take a moment if you need it, but I'd like you to stay. There's something we need to discuss." I sat back down, perching on the edge of my chair like a frightened bird. "I've reviewed your case thoroughly," Jensen continued. "The incidents, the testimonies, your family's concerns." He paused, shuffling some papers. "Actually, I've already seen the material Miss Walsh sent me." The room went still. What material? Mark's voice had lost its gentle concern. Jensen pulled out a USB drive. Quite extensive documentation. Audio recordings, video footage, sworn statements, even some interesting text messages about medication and manufactured incidents. Greta's face went white. That's ridiculous. She's clearly manipulating, including, Jensen cut in, a pre-written psychiatric assessment with my signature. Dated for today. He turned to me. Would you like to drop the act now, Tricia? I straightened in my chair, my voice clear and strong. Yes, I would. This is absurd, Mark stood up. She's sick. She needs help. The only sick thing here, I said, is how long you thought you could get away with this. Greta's face twisted with rage. You little... Mrs. Marshall, Jensen interrupted. I'd sit down if I were you. The police officers outside would love an excuse to come in early. Police? Mark's voice cracked. Conspiracy to commit fraud, I said. Attempted illegal confinement. Psychological abuse. Should I go on? You can't prove anything, Greta snarled. I pulled out my phone, playing a recording. Mark's voice discussing fake medication. Greta planning false testimonies. I have hundreds of hours like this, I said. Every conversation, every plan, every lie. Did you really think I was that easy to break? Mark, Greta turned to her son. Do something. He tried one last time. Baby, you're confused. This paranoia... No. I stood up, looking down at them both. I was paying attention. You just never saw me coming. The door opened. Remington, my trust's lawyer, walked in with 2 police officers. Dr. Jensen, one officer said, you have everything you need? Jensen nodded, handling them a thick file. Including their attempt to bribe me last week to falsify medical records. You set us up, Greta whispered. No, I corrected her. You set yourselves up. I just kept very, very good records. Mark lunged for me, but the officers were faster. As they cuffed him, he kept screaming that I was crazy, that I needed help, that he was trying to save me. The only thing crazy, I said, watching them lead him away, was thinking you could outsmart me. Greta was next, fighting and screaming as they escorted her out. I stayed in Jensen's office, listening to her threats echo down the hallway. You did well, Jensen said quietly. In 30 years, I've never seen someone handle a gaslighting attempt quite like this. I gathered my purse, suddenly exhausted. They forgot one thing. What's that? I'm my father's daughter. I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. And he taught me to always record everything. The police station's interview room was cold, but I felt nothing but warmth watching Mark and Greta squirm on the security monitor. They'd been separated, each trying desperately to salvage their story. She's mentally unstable, Greta insisted to the detective. Everything we did was to help her. In the next room, Mark took a different approach. I was just following my mother's lead. Tricia's rich, you know how these wealthy families are. I thought maybe she really did need help. Detective Rivera turned to me. Want to watch me break them? I nodded, and she entered Mark's room first. The change in his demeanour was instant. He sat up straighter, tried to look charming. Let's talk about the medication, Rivera said, dropping an evidence bag on the table. The pills your mother supplied. Our lab found interesting results. Mark's face fell. I don't know anything about placebos, Rivera cut in. Designed to look like prescription anti-anxiety medication. That's fraud, Mr. Marshall, and attempted poisoning. You can't prove I knew about that. Rivera played a recording. Mark's voice discussing the fake pills with Greta, planning how to document my reactions to them. In the other room, Greta was crumbling. It was her idea, she shrieked, pointing at the door. She's manipulating everyone. With evidence that predates any of your claims? Rivera's partner asked. The timestamps on her recordings go back months. Your first complaint about her mental health was conveniently right after she inherited the trust fund. I watched Greta's face contort. That money should have been Mark's. She doesn't deserve it. And there it is, Michaela said beside me. The real motive. Rivera returned to us looking satisfied. We've got them. The DA's already drawing up charges. Conspiracy, fraud, attempted false imprisonment. They're looking at serious time. I want to talk to them, I said. Tricia, no, Michaela grabbed my arm. Let the lawyers handle this. 5 minutes, that's all I need. Rivera hesitated, then nodded. 5 minutes, we'll be watching. I entered Mark's room first. He jumped up, eyes wild. Baby, please, you have to understand. Sit down. He sat. You know what the worst part is? I said quietly. I actually loved you. And you were willing to destroy my life for money that wasn't even yours. It wasn't like that. Mum said, your mother is going to prison and so are you. I placed my wedding ring on the table. Consider this my divorce notice. Greta was next. She didn't look up when I entered. You never thought I was good enough for him, I said. Now he's going to prison because of you. He deserved that money, she spat. We had a plan. Yes, you did. A stupid, obvious plan that I caught on to immediately. I leaned closer. Want to know your biggest mistake? She finally met my eyes. You thought money made me soft? But money didn't make me. My father did. And he taught me to spot snakes like you from a mile away. Back in the observation room, Rivera handed me a stack of papers. The trust's lawyer is here. He needs your signature on these protection orders. Remington entered, looking grave. Tricia, there's something else. We've uncovered some concerning financial activity in Greta's accounts. Massive debt, hidden loans. This wasn't their first attempt at something like this. What do you mean? 3 other wealthy women in the past 5 years. All married to Mark briefly. All had mental health incidents shortly after. None as wealthy as you, so the stakes were lower. They took settlements to go away quietly. My stomach turned. He's done this before. Not successfully, Michaela said firmly. Not this time. A commotion erupted in Mark's interview room. He was screaming, demanding to see me, claiming he could explain everything. I've heard enough explanations, I told Rivera. Make sure they both get maximum sentences. With this evidence, they'll be lucky to see daylight before they're elderly. I gathered my things, ready to leave this cold place behind. But first, I had one more stop to make. Dr. Jensen was waiting in his office when I arrived. The police called. Congratulations on your victory. Thank you for helping expose them. I should thank you, he said. Your case helped us uncover a larger pattern. Other doctors, other women. You may have stopped something much bigger. I thought about those other women, the ones who settled, who disappeared. They picked the wrong target this time. Indeed, he handed me a card. If you ever need to talk, professionally, I mean, my door is open. I took the card, but we both knew I wouldn't call. I'd had enough of doctors, enough of rooms with leather chairs and concerned faces. It was time to reclaim my life, starting with changing every lock in my house. The courthouse steps were crowded with reporters when the verdicts came in. Mark and Greta, once so polished and proper, looked small in their prison jumpsuits. Guilty on all counts, Michaela whispered, squeezing my hand as the judge read the sentences. 15 years for Mark, 12 for Greta. I watched Mark's shoulders slump as the reality hit him. Greta started wailing, her designer mask finally cracking completely. Miss Walsh, reporters shouted, how do you feel about the verdict? Before I could respond, a familiar voice cut through the chaos. She feels vindicated, obviously. Caitlin. My half-sister stood at the bottom of the steps. looking expensive and smug in her Chanel suit. "What are you doing here?" I asked when the reporters had finally dispersed. She shrugged, examining her manicure. "Can't I support my sister in her moment of triumph?" "You've never supported me in anything." "True," she smiled all teeth, "but I did try to warn them about you." I froze. "What?" "I told Greta you weren't as naive as you looked. That daddy dearest had taught you too well." She laughed. "She didn't listen, obviously. Too busy planning how to spend your money." "You knew all this time?" "Of course I knew. Mark approached me first, you know. Thought I might help them, given our complicated relationship." She adjusted her designer sunglasses. "I told them they were idiots, that you'd destroy them if they tried." My hands clenched into fists. "And you didn't think to warn me?" "Why should I? You handled it beautifully." She stepped closer. "Besides, now that they're gone, maybe we can work on being real sisters." "Get out of my sight." "Don't be dramatic, Trisha. Family is family." "No," I said. "Family doesn't watch while someone tries to destroy you." Back home, I walked through rooms that finally felt like mine again. The library where they'd plotted against me, the kitchen where Pearl had warned me, the study where I'd planned their downfall. My phone buzzed, a message from the prison. Mark wanted to see me. "Don't go," Michaela advised over the phone. "He'll just try to manipulate you again." But I went anyway, one last time. He looked pathetic behind the glass, his charm replaced by desperate fear. "Baby, please," he begged through the phone. "I'll do anything. Just tell them it was all a misunderstanding." "Like those other women? The ones you and Greta terrorized before me?" His face changed. "They were different. With you, it was real. I really loved you. You loved my money. I can change. We can start over." I hung up the phone and walked out, ignoring his shouts behind me. Pearl was waiting at my house with coffee and sympathy. "I brought your favorite cookies," she said, hugging me tight. "The ones your father used to love." "You're too good to me." "No, you're too good to all of us." She settled at the kitchen counter. "The foundation called. They want to know if you're ready to return to work." I thought about it. The charity work had always been my passion, not a duty. "Yes," I said. "I think I am." "And the house?" She looked around at the space Mark had once claimed. "Will you sell it?" "No." I sipped my coffee. "I am reclaiming it. New furniture, new colours, my choices this time." The doorbell rang. Remington, with final paperwork. Divorce documents, restraining orders, updated trust fund protections. "The money's completely secure now," he said. "No spouse can ever touch it without extensive verification, and your explicit consent." "Good." I signed where indicated. "What about Greta's debts?" "Coming to light, several other families have come forward. Seems she and Mark had quite a history of financial manipulation. I want to help them," I decided. "The other victims. Set up a legal fund or something." Remington nodded approvingly. "Your father would be proud." That night, alone in my newly peaceful house, I opened my father's old journal. His business advice filled the pages, but one line stood out. True revenge isn't about destruction. It's about justice, about making sure they never hurt anyone else. My phone buzzed again. Caitlin trying to reconnect. I blocked her number. On my desk, the foundation papers waited. A gala next month, honouring advocates for mental health awareness. They wanted me to speak. I began writing my speech. When someone tells you you're crazy, sometimes it just means you're too threatening to their plans. Sometimes the real madness is trusting the wrong people. But surviving their games? That's the sanest thing you can do. I didn't get revenge. I got justice. and it tasted sharper than blood. The mental health advocacy gala buzzed with energy. My speech notes sat untouched as I watched the crowd from backstage. Among the guests were 3 women I'd never met, but knew intimately. Mark's previous victims, all were here tonight. Ready? Michaela appeared beside me in a shimmer of blue silk. The press is already calling this the event of the season. I'm ready. I smoothed my black dress. Did you see the latest letter from Mark? The one where he claims he's found God and wants forgiveness. She rolled her eyes. Please tell me you burned it. Better. I sent copies to the parole board and his prison therapist. Let them see how he's still trying to manipulate people. The lights dimmed. My cue. Ladies and gentlemen, the host announced, please welcome our keynote speaker, Tricia Walsh. The spotlight felt warm as I took the podium. In the front row, Pearl dabbed her eyes with a tissue. Behind her, Dr. Jensen nodded encouragingly. When I was a little girl, I began, my father taught me to trust my instincts, to keep records, to always have proof. I never understood why until the day my husband and mother-in-law tried to have me committed. The room went silent. They almost succeeded. They had doctors lined up, false witnesses ready, even fake medication to make me seem unstable. But they forgot one thing. Gaslighting only works if you don't see the gas. I spotted one of Mark's previous wives in the audience, nodding slowly. Tonight isn't about revenge. It's about recognition. Recognition that emotional abuse leaves scars deeper than any physical wound. Recognition that sometimes the people closest to us can be our greatest threat. And recognition that surviving doesn't make you paranoid, it makes you powerful. The Foundation's new initiative appeared on the screen behind me. The Walsh Fund for Psychological Abuse Survivors. Legal aid, counselling, financial support. Everything I wished I'd had access to during my darkest days. This fund, I continued, isn't just about money. It's about belief. Because when someone tells you you're crazy, what they're really saying is that your truth threatens their lies. After the speech, Mark's previous wives found me. Sarah, Rachel, and Diana, each with their own story of manipulation and narrow escape. We should have fought harder, Sarah said, gripping her champagne glass. Like you did. You survived, I told her. That's what matters. But you won, Diana added, and now Greta's empire is crumbling. She was right. The investigation had uncovered decades of fraud. Greta's social circle had abandoned her, her assets were frozen, and her reputation was destroyed. Miss Walsh, a young woman approached nervously, I think my brother's wife is going through something similar. Could I get information about the fund? More people gathered, sharing stories, asking questions. The silence was breaking, one voice at a time. Pearl appeared with a phone message. Dr. Jensen says Greta's requesting a psychological evaluation, claiming prison is damaging her mental health. Ironic, Michaela commented. Should we be concerned? No, I said. Let her experience what she tried to inflict on others. The evening wound down, but the energy remained electric. Plans were made, connections formed, promises of support exchanged. Your father would be proud, Remington said as the last guest departed. Though he might be surprised by how you used his business lessons. He taught me to protect myself. I'm just teaching others to do the same. At home, I found another letter waiting. Not from Mark this time. From Caitlin. Still trying to play happy families? Michaela asked. I fed the unopened envelope into the shredder. Some bridges stay burned. My phone lit up with messages from women who'd attended the gala, sharing their stories, offering to help others. A network forming, stronger than any prison walls. I opened my laptop to find an email from the prison warden. Mark had been caught trying to manipulate another inmate's wife into sending him money. His privileges were revoked. Some people never change, I murmured. But some people do, Michaela said. Look what you've built from this mess. She was right. The foundation was thriving. The fund was growing, and women were coming forward, refusing to be silenced. I walked to my father's old study, my study now, and touched the frame holding his favourite quote. Success is the best revenge. No, Dad, I said softly. Justice is. Outside, the city lights twinkled like stars. Somewhere out there, another woman was starting to question her reality, starting to gather evidence, starting to fight back. And thanks to tonight, she wouldn't have to fight alone. That was worth more than any revenge could ever be.